The rebellion appears to be attractive, for within rebellion exists a perceived freedom to live without inhibitions, to be present within one's own life, to absolve vicarious navigation. The deviation of social constructs, the disregard of political respectabilities, within defiancy exists a freedom, or at least perceived. For women, given gender roles and normatives, the aggression or assertion can become an approach worth appealing to when you're encouraged to be passive, agreeable, and or submissive. Especially since commentating on YouTube, I find engagement, i.e. attention, to be an analytical process which makes viewership, i.e. attention, difficult to acquire. When your delivery and or execution is not concise, often retention isn't sustainable. No matter the sustenance of your content and within context your character, if you don't make a statement, you won't be seen nor sought after, which is relatively reflective of the exchange between men and women when initiating conversations of sexual response. If not concise, if not overt, if not authentic with your delivery, retention is neither gained nor kept, and the engagement is lost. Proceeding to my next point, which is age and maturity, the lack of boundaries displayed by the bad boy may become attractive to an adult woman with disciplined parents, for it presents robust experiences that they otherwise would not have, as they have not had these experiences. The disregard of the bad boy may also appear as maturity to the prepubescent and or pubescent girl whom has yet to mature in age and experience because of the age limitations and the confinement of children. Then there's a consideration of society. The societal programming of hypermasculinity through media propaganda often conflates our perception of masculinity as we adversely recognize an influx of hypersexual content, which too blurs the lines of healthy sexual expressions and or interactions. As social media perpetuates an unattainable standard, for consumerism is the driving force of our capitalistic economy, the developed construct of masculinity then becomes indistinguishable as there is an oversaturation as well as an overdramatization of one form of representation that isn't entirely accurate, as it is often generalized. In short, sex sells. The act of sex, the imitation of sex work, the embodiment of sexual appeal, the implicit standard of and or for sex, including sexual and or gender expressions, roles, and orientation, sells. And this is often due to the political and or social climate at the time. As sex is a commodity, it too is a political tool. Chronic exposure to sexualized media increases endorsements of traditional gender roles, which maintain a social order. So, conclusively, as I refer to societal influences, I'm referring to platforms such as Twitter, where various demographics, even if that content does not appeal to your demographic, can stumble upon pornographic material that otherwise would prove to be most appropriate for a designated pornographic website. I'm also referring to a platform such as Twitter because there is a hyperactive application of gender roles and gender normatives. And more intimately than societal influences, communal representation is quite influential. What is perceived of status? For whomever amasses a sufficient quantity of its value, therefore, is of status. Low income, disenfranchised, and or subsidized demographics are suggested to lack a parental presence domestically, as they often seek the voided fulfillment in their environment, which often influences a child's values, which often influences that child's relational outcome. Subjectively, I find that when resources are lacked, when you are deprived of necessary essentials, there is an underdeveloped system of values. So let's utilize PEPA from Salt and Peppa and Will Smith from The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, or most notably from The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So it was confirmed by Peppa that she was presented with an opportunity to be in a relationship with Will Smith, and or she was in fact in a relationship with Will Smith, to which she then later declined the offer or rescinded the opportunity to be with someone more fitting for her. She felt as if Will Smith was too nice and she was seeking a thuggish, ruggish bone. She was seeking a roughneck. And she further confirms this. For myself, when she mentioned him being too nice, I was like, okay, that makes sense. But when she further clarified, like, no, I didn't want him because he was too nice and I wanted a thug, then I was like, okay, now we're on some unstable grounding, because a nice person is often agreeable. A good person is genuinely intended. You know what I mean? Like, for example, I always use the notion of homeless individuals in social media. For a nice person, they probably don't want to give this homeless man food, or they probably do want to give this homeless man food, but their intentions is rooted in greed. They want to give this homeless individual the food that they've purchased for them so that they can receive public gratification by posting it on social media. The good person, they're doing it because they genuinely want to. And if they didn't want to, they wouldn't do it. But like I said, for the nice person, if he didn't want to do it, he probably will still do it because he wants to appease you so he can receive something in return. If he wants to do it, he's still going to do it for you because he wants something in return. The good person doesn't really want anything in return, doesn't really expect anything in return, because one, they assess the situation, and two, they assess their intentions to determine whether or not this is something that they want to give their energy to. So good people are really like genuinely intended. Nice people, they're not as genuine as they portray themselves to be. So, I wanted to say this to distinguish, the difference between nice and good, because I find a lot of times men are like, women don't like nice men. Women don't like, no. Men, adversely may prefer a nice woman because they want someone that's agreeable. They want someone, even if they don't necessarily agree with what that man is telling them, they're going to follow through and be submissive regardless of everything. Like, for men, I find that men probably would prefer a nice woman or a good woman than they would a bad guy, where women, they prefer a good guy. But adversely to, that good guy, they might, be more inclined to be with that bad guy. But this is a little tangent. I just wanted to mention Salt and Peppa, or Peppa from Salt and Peppa, and Will Smith, because at that time, especially during the 90s, Will was marketable. Will was commercial. Will was the Fresh Prince. He was summertime. He was like the good guy. His whole career, he's always been, portrayed as a good guy. And I feel like often this conflates our ideal or the reality of who he is as a person. I'm not, trying to insinuate that he's a bad individual, yet it is quite notable that societal influences have molded the perception of Will Smith, which makes it difficult to distinguish between his characters and who he actually is, especially since Will Smith, or Will, was his name in The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. In placing an emphasis on Peppa's communal influence as a rapper and assessing her era of prevalence, the roughneck was what she became accustomed to, given pair-based relationships and actual communal engagements prior and preceding her celebrity. The blasphemy of misogynoir was normalized and ran rampant, so what she expected, what she sought, was nothing less than what was attainable, what was surrounding her.